Have you ever been on the hunt for a game that's, simple enough that anyone can learn it in a few minutes, but has enough strategy to actually keep you hooked? Well, that game is Sequence. And today, I'm going to break down everything you need to know to play this absolute classic. And I'm not kidding. In just a few minutes, you'll be all set to sit down and play your very first game. So what are we waiting for? Let's dive in. Okay, first up, Section 1, Setup and the Objective. Before we get into the fun stuff, we gotta know what we're working with and, how you actually win the thing. To get started, you're gonna need the game board, those colorful little marker chips, and 2 standard decks of cards. Just make sure you take the jokers out first. They don't get to play in this one. And what's really cool about Sequence is how many people can play. You can go head-to-head with just 2 players, or have a huge party with up to 12. Now, Sequence is all about teamwork. You'll split into 2 or maybe 3 even teams. But here's the most important rule for setup. You absolutely have to alternate seats. It should always go you, an opponent, your teammate, another opponent, and so on. It sounds like a small detail, but it keeps the whole game perfectly balanced. The whole point of the game is right there in the name. You're trying to create a sequence. So what is a sequence? It's just a straight line of 5 of your team's markers. It can be horizontal, it can be vertical, or it can be diagonal. Any straight line of 5 will do the trick. But here's a neat little twist. How you win actually changes depending on the number of teams. In a regular 2-team game, you need to be the first to get 2 separate sequences. But if you throw a third team into the mix, it becomes this frantic race to be the first to get just 1 sequence. All right, setup's done, and we know our goal. Now for the really important part. Section 2, how to play a turn. This is the heart of the game, right here. First off, everyone gets their cards. Now, the number of cards in your hand depends on how many people are playing. For a simple 2-player game, you'll each get 7 cards. But for a massive 12-player game, everybody just gets 3 to keep things moving. Taking your turn is so easy. It's just a simple 3-step process. First, you select a card from your hand and play it. Second, you place one of your markers on a matching space on the board. And third, you draw a new card to end your turn. Select, place, draw. That's the whole thing. Okay, listen up, because this next part is maybe the most critical rule in the whole game. The timing of that third step, drawing your card, is everything. You must draw your new card before the next player starts their turn. And here's why that's such a big deal. If you forget to draw and the next player begins their move, well, that's it. You've lost your chance. You have to finish the entire game with 1 fewer card in your hand, which is a huge disadvantage. So remember, select, place, and then immediately draw. So we've got the basics down pat. But not all cards are created equal. In Section 3, we're going to talk about the real game changers, the jacks. Sooner or later, you're going to look at your hand and go, wait a minute, I have a jack, but there are no jack spaces on the board. What do I do with this? Well, my friend, that's because they have special powers. There are 2 kinds of jacks, and you can tell them apart by, looking at their eyes. The 2-eye jacks are wild cards. You can play 1 and place your marker on any open space you want on the whole board. The 1-eye jacks, they're for playing offense. You can play 1 to remove any one of your opponent's markers right off the board. Bam, gone. But there is one really important limit to that power. Once a team locks in a sequence, once they have their 5 in a row, those markers are totally safe. You cannot use a 1-eye jack to break up a sequence that's already been completed. Okay, moving on to Section 4, Special Rules of the Board. Yep, it's not just the cards that have a few tricks up their sleeve. The board does too. So take a look at the 4 corners of the game board. These spots are basically freebies. They're wild spaces that count as a marker for any team. This makes them incredibly powerful places to build from, since you only need 4 more markers in a row to make a sequence using a corner. Now, sometimes you might get stuck with what's called a dead card. This is when you have a card in your hand, but both of its matching spots on the board are already covered with markers, so you literally can't play it. But don't worry, you're not stuck. If that happens on your turn, you just announce, I've got a dead card. Show it to everybody, discard it, and draw a brand new card to replace it. After that, you just play your turn like you normally would. Simple as that. And finally, we've come to Section 5, Important Game Etiquette. This last rule isn't about the cards or the board, it's all about keeping the game fair and honestly, fun for everyone. The golden rule of Sequence is this:
Absolutely no coaching your teammates. You can't give hints, you can't suggest moves, you can't say something like, oh, don't play there. It's a game of strategy, and you have to trust your teammates to make their own decisions. And the penalty for breaking this rule is really, really severe. If somebody coaches a teammate, every single player on that team has to immediately pick a card from their hand and discard it. You then have to play out the rest of the game with a smaller hand, just like when you forget to draw. So yeah, don't do it. And that is literally it. From setting up the board to the power of the jacks and the rules of fair play, you now know absolutely everything you need to know to start your first game. You are officially ready to play Sequence. So, I guess the only question left is, with the board set up and the cards in your hand, what's your strategy going to be? What's your first winning move? Well, go find out.